Hi, I'm Denise Bowman. I am here as a member of the board of the CalvertHealth Hospital Foundation. I'm honored to be a part of that board and its chair. I'm also a practicing attorney, and I want to tell you the perfect gift that you can give for Valentine's Day. Whether it be for your spouse, your children, your brothers or your sisters or other family members, you have to leave a love letter. The gift could be the best gift that you could leave as part of your legacy. So let's talk about this. Estate planning. You hear estate planning all the time, and you think that you've taken all the steps that you need to take. You have a will, maybe a trust, a financial power of attorney, a healthcare power of attorney, a designation of guardianship, designation of payable on death or beneficiary provisions. And you think you're done, but you're not. You've got one more step that's really important in your estate planning, and that is what's called a love letter. A love letter is what is really the gift of love. It's a gift of information. It's a gift of memory. It's a gift of stories. So think about your junk drawer. Yeah, we all have junk drawers in our kitchen, maybe in our offices. I think I have two in my office, but they're junk drawers. And I have all this stuff in my junk drawer that's really important. It's things I need, things I use, but it's scattered all over the place. Well, you don't want all of your information scattered all over the place or just thrown in one box, or you have to kind of hunt and peck to find it. It causes confusion. It could cause a loss of assets. It could cause conflict, and it really could cause confusion as to what's supposed to happen with certain things. So what a love letter does is it gets rid of the junk drawer. It becomes that ultimate organizer. You know, you see commercials with the ultimate organizer. This is the ultimate organizer of information. Okay, so I want to tell you a little bit of a story about what happened to me as a grandchild. My grandfather was a product of the Depression. He didn't believe in banks, and he believed that all of his financial information and whatever he owned was private. It was no one's business. And he really just kind of put his money and his savings and his personal belongings in really unique places. We kind of had to go on a scavenger hunt through his house to figure out where he had stuffed some money. Suit pockets, sock drawers, mattresses, oh, those old coffee cans. They were all over the house, all over the place. We almost thought about getting a metal detector to go in the backyard. We're thinking that we left some things buried in the backyard, but we don't know. Well, it caused a lot of confusion, and we wanted to make sure everything was accounted for and everybody was present so that there was no question as to what was or was not found. You really don't want to leave your children or your husband or others in that situation. In addition, we really had no idea where his bank accounts were, what stock he owned. The only thing we did know was he owned his home. Well, there was a loss of assets. We learned he owned what was called Alaskan pipeline stock, but we didn't find out about that till many, many years later. Well, the value of that Alaskan pipeline stock was 5 times greater at the time of his death as it was when we found out about that stock. So it caused a dissipation of assets for the estate that really could have been conveyed to his children of much needed funds. We really don't want that to happen. So what's really important in getting organized is getting the information all in one place. Maybe who is your financial advisor? And what is the information your financial advisor may have? What are your insurance benefits? How are they listed? Who's the beneficiary? What is important into those insurance? What's the insurance agent that maybe they should contact? Getting the business cards and placing them all in one location on what we call a love letter is very helpful. Where are documents? Are the documents in the junk drawer? Are the documents in a safety deposit box? How is someone going to get access to that safety deposit box? Unfortunately, many times wills and other documents are placed in a safety deposit box, and the individual who has passed away has not given authority for someone else to get access to that safety deposit box. Then unfortunately you come to me and there's going to be a fee. You can't find the key. We have to get a court order. Then the court order costs you some money. You got to pay me. And then you have to have the safety deposit box drilled. You have to have a witness present. And then you get to the safety deposit box and there's nothing in it. Or maybe there's a will, but you don't know if that's the most current will or what's happening, if there's other codicils or other documents. Lots of confusion, lots of cost and expense. So we need to know where the documents are and to make sure that there's access to the documents. It's really important that original wills can be recorded with the Register of Wills in the county where you reside so that it's kept for safekeeping. It's filed by your Social Security number, and it can be retrieved at any time. It is confidential, and it's not information that's available to the public. It's a good way to preserve and protect your will and letting your loved ones know that it is recorded and what jurisdiction that it's recorded in. When you start talking about this information, we have a form. There's going to be a packet that's going to be available at the Hospital Foundation office that you can pick up, or we'll also have it online, where it's what we call a love letter. And this is where all this information can be put. So let's talk about it. You pass away and you need mortgage payments made, or you have a credit card, or there's things where you're not sure what the balances are. It's important for your loved one or the person handling your financial affairs can have access to that information. What are your passcodes? I have 1,000 passcodes. I can tell you that they're all over the place. I now have them saved in a centralized location, and it is all saved so that I have an individual thumb drive that I update every probably 6 months of all of my passwords, and it's placed with my important papers. And inside a box, I have a black leather box. My children call it the doom and gloom box, but it's a box, and it has the will, it has the deed to our house, it has the titles to the vehicle, and it has that thumb drive, and it gives all of the passcodes, and it would allow access for someone to get into my computer to make sure that things are being paid or moved or shifted, or what the values are at least for reporting. That information is so important, and it takes so much stress and burden off of your personal representative because it's there in one location and they don't have to go hunt and peck for it. The information on the flash drive has my passcodes. On the outside of the flash drive, I've written the passcode to my computer because all of that information is in my computer, and unless you have access to that, you're not going to be able to retrieve it. This is the gift of a love letter. It's the gift of information all in one location. When we start talking about the gift of the love letter, it becomes important, or part of it is you can include things that are very sentimental and important to you. It's interesting, I'll tell you another story. My grandmother from the other side of the family saw what we went through with my grandfather from that side of the family, and hunting and pecking and trying to find assets, that she sat down and she wrote a love letter. And she included all of the information, unbeknownst to us. She was quite wealthy. She never lived that way. And she left some very specific things to us, but they weren't the money. It wasn't the money that was important. It wasn't what she had in assets. It was those personal touches and those personal thoughts and memories that she gave us in her love letter. She included information about her parents, about how she rode in a covered wagon over the mountains of Bryce to her homestead, and she included stories for each grandchild. And she wrote a letter to each grandchild. And we all got to read our letters separately. And my letter was very, talked about how I spent, each grandchild got to spend a week with her in the summer alone. And my week was always blackberry picking week. And she talked about picking blackberries and how we made blackberry jam and blackberry pie and blackberry this and blackberry that. I know all kinds of uses for blackberries. And we used her canning equipment and her jars and all of those things that her grandmother had given to us. After all of the grandchildren had read the letter, she had said each child gets to go in her house and pick something that is very important to them that would give them cherished memories for themselves and that they could pass on. Well, you know, originally I thought I was going to walk into the house and take one thing. After reading that letter, when it was my turn to walk in the house and pick my item, I took all of the canning equipment, her jars, the cooking utensils that went with it, and the handwritten recipes that she had made for blackberries. I've now passed those on to my children. My grandmother created a legacy that wasn't based on financial, even though she had all the finances. She created it based on her history and the history that I had with her. Another item that she had written in the letter to me was that I was always the grandchild that wanted to read, and I would pull her books down and ask her to read to me, and I would go to her bookcase and pull her poetry books, and she loved poetry, and ask her to read them to me. I have many of those books today. Those things are of such sentimental value to me that I otherwise wouldn't have had but for her writing me that beautiful letter. She also wrote in her love letter some of her favorite poetry and songs. When we were doing her celebration of life, there was no question as to what poetry, what scripture readings she wanted, because she told us. It created a celebration, not a stress for the family, because she gave us information that she truly shared and believed in so that we could share. I could say, please make sure you give those legacy comments in your love letter to your family. What you want to do is put it all in one spot, centralize it, make sure that you centralize it in a location, and let the individual know that is going to be responsible for handling your financial affairs or your estate where that information may be located. Please remember, this is not a big fat secret. You need to combine the information and let those that are going to be planning and taking care of your assets and your estate know what you want and where that information is. And if you do that, you've given the best gift, the gift of a love letter. So I hope this Valentine's Day you take the packet, which will be available, and the information form that we have, and you create the love letter for your family as your Valentine's Day present.